The Gaza ceasefire is already on. It took effect after over 15 months of war. All eyes are on the hostage prisoners swap that will take place in a few hours from now. Hamas has named the 3 Israeli women hostages that it will release in a short while. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has confirmed that 4 other hostages will be released in 7 days. Israel will free 90 Palestinian prisoners. The Iran-backed group has asked Netanyahu's government to release the list of prisoners. Among the Israeli women hostages due to be released by Hamas are 24-year-old Romi Gonen, 28-year-old Emily Damari, and 31-year-old Doron Steinbrecher.
Been fighting this fight for the past 15 months. We think that President Trump has made a real difference now, and his ultimatum really impacted what's going on. And we know how important international pressure is. So we really need to keep the pressure up.
Celebrations have begun across Gaza. Hundreds throng the streets of Gaza to celebrate the historic day. As you can see on your screens, armed Hamas operatives paraded through crowds of Palestinians in the streets of Gaza, chanting in celebration after the delayed ceasefire. Thousands of displaced Palestinians have started returning to whatever is left of their homes. Images show people checking the ruins of their homes as they return to the devastating region.
ما توقعناش نكون كل هذا الدمار في رفح. قعدنا يمكن 20 سنة واحنا بنبني في بيتنا. في لحظة يروح هيك حرام.
دمار هائل لا يوصف، دمار يعني لا يشهد له التاريخ من قبل ولا من بعد. حرب مجرمة ظالمة، لكن بإذن الله بالإرادة تاعتنا تاني وإيمانا بالله وبقوتنا هنرجع نبني ونعيد ونعيش بإذن الله.
Ahead of the prisoner hostage exchange, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar addressed the public. He said that if the international community wants to contribute to a permanent ceasefire, it must include dismantling of Hamas military power. He added that Israel is determined to achieve its objective and will move for further negotiations.
For us, it's important to achieve the objectives of the war. We are determined to achieve the objectives of the war. The war itself is not an objective, but if we will not have another choice but to use, again, military actions in order to meet the objectives of the war, we will do that.
197 trucks of aid and 5 of fuel have arrived in Gaza through the crossing of Kerem Shalom between Israel, Gaza, and Al-Loga. Egyptian Foreign Minister said 600 trucks a day would enter Gaza, including 50 carrying fuel. Meanwhile, in a huge setback for Netanyahu's cabinet, the Israeli far-right minister Ben-Gvir's party has quit the ruling coalition. The party of Israel's hardline national security minister says its cabinet ministers submitted their resignations from the government in opposition to the Gaza ceasefire deal. The departure of the Jewish Power Party, Netanyahu's government now has 62 parliamentary seats in the 120-seat Knesset. While it does not affect the ceasefire, it does destabilize the coalition. James J. Marlow is a West Asian analyst. He's now joining us from London. Good to see you, Mr. James. The ceasefire has already begun as we speak, but there are already loopholes, as we can see, because Israel still wants to have it their way. They say that they want to maintain their objective in this war. What do you make about Israel's statements?
Well, also, Hamas still want to have their way as well, because in the last couple of days since the ceasefire has been announced, their remaining leaders have actually said, we will do October the 7th again, we will regroup and we will attack because Israel has to be destroyed. So that is the reason why Israel is saying that their objective is to get rid of Hamas, not just for Israel's sake and not just for the Israeli people's sake, but also the entire region, including the Gazans itself. Because some of the pictures that you're actually showing of those in wheelchairs and those with one leg are not necessarily because of the Israeli bombing. It's actually because they have tried to get some of the food themselves, stolen by Hamas, and Hamas have given them the worst beatings around, and they also shot them many times in the legs. So this organization, Palestinian Hamas, also Islamic Jihad and Fatah al-Aqsa and the Mujahideen, and a couple of groups related to ISIS inside of Gaza, they're no friends of anyone. They're certainly not friends of the Palestinians who simply want to live side by side with Israel. But if I may, Eric, if I can just bring you up to date, because you mentioned the ceasefire, but I can also say that in the last 15 minutes, I've just got word that the exchange is now taking place. So that means that the three girls, the three young ladies that you mentioned, Rami, Emily, and Doram, are actually now being transferred over to the Red Cross somewhere in central Gaza, and they're being put into the trucks. Now, I don't know how long this is actually going to take, and then from there, they will be driven to the Israeli border, where they will be checked over on the Israeli side in a medical facility that has been set up. And then once they've been checked, just to make sure that what their condition is, of course, after it's actually been 471 days, 471 days in captivity, that's more than 15 months, probably most of that time in tunnels, with very little food, with beatings, with abuse, and also a bucket for a toilet. The stench must be terrible. I mean, it's actually impossible or almost impossible to imagine what these girls have gone through. Then they will be flown either by helicopter or perhaps driven to one of the Israeli hospitals. They will be looked over there, and that's when their families will come in. Now, I have to tell you, the three ladies, I mean, it's amazing that we've got, I hope, they're alive, because we don't know that for 100%. They're alive and they come out. Of course, two of those girls were taken from their beds on October the 7th. The other girl, Rami, was taken from the music festival. But there is a little bit of disappointment from other families, especially those who have not seen the names on the 33, the list of 33, which are expected, at least this is according to the deal, expected to be released over the 6-week period. And as you know, a lot can happen during that 6-week period.
True.
Those
Mr. James,
not on
Mr. James, sorry to interrupt you, but yes, you bring a point that we will confirm in our newsroom, where these three ladies will be taken, and you know, how they'll reach Israel. And thank you very much for that information, because we will do our part and we will try and investigate how they will be reaching Israel. But we'll have to end this discussion here. James Marlowe, thank you very much for talking to us today. All right, we do understand that the spokesperson of the Israeli government is addressing the media at this moment. We'll just dip into it for a short while. Let's listen into what he has to say.
Only the Lebanese army and UNIFIL forces are in that space. Anything other than that is a breach of the ceasefire agreement. And therefore, we are asking again that while there have been some positive developments, we are asking for there to be no Hezbollah armed forces in that space. That is clearly outlined in the agreement. That remains true right now. The reason this agreement is different to previous agreements is that Israel is enforcing this agreement. Okay, could you just scroll down? Okay, scroll up again, please. Okay, question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Does Israel believe Hamas is deliberately stringing the Israeli public along by delaying the names and then the release of the hostages? That's your first question, Joel. Joel, this is a genocidal terrorist organization. Hamas, it's considered a terrorist organization around the world. The way they have acted since and before October the 7th, 2023, has been as a jihadist terrorist organization, and they have continued to this very moment, to the delays which they've implemented, to the various shenanigans which they've tried to pull off, trying to engineer last-minute crisis to get a last-minute better deal for themselves. We know precisely who we are dealing with. Second question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart is, President-elect Trump said that there will be all hell to pay if the hostages were not released, and yet many of the hostages will remain in captivity even if the deal is fulfilled. Is that a significant concession? And thirdly, you say, how does Israel respond to Hamas's attempt to claim victory? I thank you for that question, Joel. In my briefing earlier, I made clear that both President Trump and President Biden both understand that if this agreement is not respected, if it does not bear the fruit which it is supposed to bear, the release of all of our hostages, Israel retains the right to continue.
All right, so that is David Mensa, who's the Israeli government spokesperson, addressing the media there. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.